Good morning. My name is Tiffany Caouette. I am the Assistant Executive Director at CAS. And on behalf of everyone at CAS, I'd like to welcome all of you who are in attendance here today, from our audience to our presenters to our panelists. As you likely know, play-based learning or playful learning is a practice that CAS very much stands behind. With support from the LEGO Foundation, we've been able to provide support for building administrators, central office administrators, and teachers over the last 2 years. And I, for one, am very much looking forward to today's webinar. With us today are Karen Gray and E.A. Aschenbrenner, consultants who've been working with schools across the state in conjunction with CAS to ensure a smooth rollout of play-based learning that it will benefit our youngest learners. Yvonne Liu-Constant is an early childhood educator who loves teaching children as much as she loves working with teachers. Yvonne has taught children ages 3 to 8 at independent and public schools, as well as adults in undergraduate and graduate programs. Currently, she's a researcher at Project Zero, Harvard Graduate School of Education, and teaches early childhood education at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She co-authored the book, A Pedagogy of Play, with her colleagues at Project Zero and translated it into Chinese. And at this time, I turn things over to Yvonne.
Hi, good morning. My name is Yvonne Liu-Constant, and thank you so much, Tiffany, for the introduction. Today, I would like to talk to you about creating and leading a school-wide culture of playful learning. And I have to say, my team, when we got the invitation to speak on this topic, we were really excited because actually this is the first time we've been asked to speak specifically to leadership. And so we had worked together as a team creating this slide, and I'm just here sort of as a spokesperson of the Pedagogy of Play team to present this topic to you. A little bit about what my project is about. The Pedagogy of Play project is a multi-year collaboration between Project Zero and LEGO Foundation aimed at promoting playful learning in classrooms and schools. Pedagogy of Play, or we call nickname POP, is one of the research projects at Project Zero. Project Zero is a research organization at the Harvard Graduate School of Education with a history of more than 50 years. Researchers at Project Zero investigate a wide range of topics, anything from multiple intelligences. One of our probably most famous researchers in our project is Howard Gardner, and creativity and the arts, ethics, cross-disciplinary and cross-cultural thinking and understanding, and sustainable ways to support learning across multiple and diverse contexts. So the Pedagogy of Play have been, since 2015, we've done our research in schools in Denmark, South Africa, the United States, Colombia, and Taiwan, in classrooms with children from 3 to 16, engaged in a wide range of subject areas, including math, science, geography, and language arts. In 15 schools and over 100 classrooms, we conducted observations, interviewed teachers, school leaders, and students, co-constructing understanding of playful learning with the educators that we had been there to study. So for this talk, my intentions are to share these key points of research: that play supports learning, but paradoxes between play and school add complexity to teaching and learning; that playful learning is universal, yet shaped by culture, and I will share some of the playful learning indicators that we found in our research; and also that supportive school cultures enable playful learning to thrive. And this will be the focus of our presentation, so that I will share the 5 school-wide playful learning practices to create a school-wide playful learning culture. So to start, there is a lot of research that shows play supports learning from fields as diverse as ethology, developmental psychology, education, and neuroscience. Even animals play. Based on evolutionary biologists' criteria for categorizing what animal behavior can consider play, here is a long list of what they found out about the species that play. So that raises the question, why do animals play? What's play benefit for their survival? Why would they spend energy and even risk injury on play? Over time, a widely embraced hypothesis has emerged that animals play to train for the unexpected. In other words, they play to learn. So what about research on humans? Animals play, but how about humans? And research show that during play, children are engaged, relaxed, and challenges states of mind conducive to learning. And this is really important because, as we know, when we are too relaxed, we're not motivated to learn. We just want to sit back and enjoy watching maybe television. But when we are too stressed, we're also not in the mindset to play because we are too stressed, we're too worried, we're too nervous. So there is a sweet spot for learning, and play puts us in that mindset. So when we are in that mindset, we are able, children and us, are able to test hypotheses and explore their environments and social relations. So therefore, we can very confidently say, based on our literature research from our team, that play offers powerful pathways in cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development. And here you can see illustrations from the chapter 2 of the pedagogy of play. And that chapter also gives you a whole, our literature review, basically, on all these research from animals and humans. So you might say, well, if play is that powerful way of learning, then why isn't playful learning the dominant way in education? So that's because there are paradoxes between play and school that add complexity to teaching and learning. The paradoxes are between play and school are that in play, children are in charge, and at school, the agenda is set by adults. Play involves risks, and in school, children should be safe. Play is timeless, but school is timetabled. And play can be chaotic, messy, and loud, but school tries to be places of order. So we call these paradoxes because both are true. It is not that only the statements about school is true or only the statements about play is true, that they're both true and they're both logical and sensible. So the physicist Niels Bohr very wisely noted that how wonderful we have met a paradox. Now we have some hope of making progress. So paradoxes cannot be eliminated, but they can be navigated. And we need you, school leaders, to lead the navigation, to be the captain of this ship in the ocean of playful learning. So our research also found that play is both universal yet shaped by culture. Playful learning is universal because all humans learn through play. But how they learn playfully, where and when it takes place, who participates, and how it is valued. All of these are shaped by cultural contexts of the learning community, as well as the broader social cultural context. So in the pedagogy of play research, we went to Denmark, South Africa, Boston, and Colombia, and did research with the educators there. And we found that in each community, there are certain words that captures what they mean by playful learning. We call these playful learning indicators. So in the International School of Billund, the school that we studied in Denmark, wonder, choice, and delight is what captures the essence of their playful learning. In the 3 schools in Johannesburg in South Africa, curiosity, ownership, and enjoyment captures their essence. And you see that in this context, Ubuntu, which is a word from their culture, meaning that I am I because of we. I do not exist outside of my connection with others, permeates everything they do. So for instance, in curiosity, they not only would say things like, oh, the child is curious, I see that they are investigating this particular question, but they would also say a lot like, the children are curious together. They are huddling and leaning in to study this interesting phenomenon together. The 6 schools in Boston, meaningful, empowering, and joyful captures the essence of playful learning for them. And then in Colombia, it's curiosity, autonomy, and joy. And then our research team then synthesized all the data that we had collected in the 4 countries and came up with these three cross-cultural indicators. So basically, what we are saying is that exploring the unknown, leading learning, and finding joy are the three cross-cultural indicators that that captures our research. So these cross-cultural indicators do not claim to be universal for all cultures. Instead, it synthesizes what's similar and what's different across the four cultural contexts. And we hope that these cross-cultural indicators would help teachers and leaders have a starting point who want to explore playful learning in their own practices. So next, I would like to share with you a story, or in our book, we call it The Picture of Practice. And so while I'm sharing this story, I would love if you could share in the chat where you see teachers, not students, but teachers, lead their own learning, explore the unknown, and find joy in the process. And I have to say, I'm particularly excited about this because usually we share this picture of practice. The children are the focus. We usually say to teachers who we provide workshop to, how do the children lead their own learning, explore the unknown, and find joy in the process? But I would love for you to share, what do you see as school leaders? What are teachers doing in terms of playful learning? Okay, so this picture of practice or story is called Too Many Rules in the Playground. And this is something that happened in the kindergarten of the International School of Billet. Oops. So, sorry about this. So first, let me set up the context. So this is, here you see a picture of part of the playground in the International School of Billet. And the one side of it is where the younger grades play, and the other side is where the older grades play. And so this morning there was one child who had a hard time going out to play. He's usually, Toby is the name we gave him in the book. He was not interested in going out. He oftentimes has a hard time joining other children, and the teacher did all they could to coax him out, and then finally he said, okay, I will go out to play. When he got outside, he saw this little fence here, and on the other side of the fence were some of his older siblings' friends. He knew them, so they accidentally threw a ball over, so he tossed the ball back, and the older siblings then playfully tossed it over, and then back and forth they go. They're playing this sort of tossing the ball over the fence game. And Toby was so happy, and the teacher was so happy, except that in this school, there is a rule that you're not allowed to toss things over the fence. So the teacher went and stopped him. He was upset, stormed back into the classroom. I don't want to play anymore. I don't like this school. And there the teacher then started to think, wow, I'm spending so much of my time saying no to children. So the two teachers of this classroom then got together and talked about what are the kinds of rules we have. What do we say no to? It seems like we're saying no all the time. So just on the playground, the rules are no going up the slide, ride bicycles only on the bike track in one direction, do not climb on the trees, do not play with apples that fall from the tree, no throwing items over the fence, it is not allowed to dig outside the sandbox, and it is not allowed to play with tree branches. So then Marina, who's one of the two teachers, said that we keep getting messages about learning through play, but I kept feeling like I have to stop it, that she says no all the time. So Carolina and Marina then talked together, and they thought that maybe we could focus on the risky but important question. What happens when we have fewer rules on the playground? So then they thought maybe as an experiment, they would say, what if we just have two rules? We take care of each other and we take care of materials on the playground. And that's it. So they brought this over to their teacher learning group, and the teacher learning group were a bit apprehensive about this. I should also add that the teacher learning group is the way they do professional development. So they get into small groups of common interests, and then they decide, okay, what is it that you want to study? How would you go about studying it? What do you want to change in your teaching? Then what they do is that they go into their classrooms and take videos, photos, write notes, or what we call pedagogical documentation, and bring it back to the research group to discuss. So the teacher group was sort of okay, and actually most of them actually did not like it because they felt like the playground is not a place to experiment. Everybody shares the playground. Everybody has to be safe on the playground, and all those rules are there for a reason. So they kind of had a discussion, and then they all agreed that maybe Caroline and Marina could at least do it as a test for 2 weeks. So what they did is that then they gave children these green bracelets to wear, and then made an agreement with the children that when you wear these bracelets, you have only these 2 rules. But just so you know, not everybody on the playground is going to be wearing a green bracelet. They explained that very clearly to their kindergarten kids. So then what the teacher did is they went on and observed and documented what happened. And then after 2 weeks, they actually reported back to the teacher research group that the children didn't go do anything out of the ordinary, even though they could. That the children created their own safety rules, and that they needed less grown-up supervision. And also that the children felt trusted. They shared their ideas and plans with teachers, and they asked them for input. So then the teacher study group were surprised to hear this, and they reflected together again. So one of the teachers, Tove, said that the bracelet gave them freedom. And I wonder if we have too many rules because rules are made to be broken. We could rethink our rules because fewer rules are better. And then they had a big discussion about, are 2 rules enough? That, how, and then also, how would you expand this? Should they add additional classes 1 by 1 to try to experiment and document as they go? Maybe that would be a good way to do it. And then finally, an important question came up in that teacher study group, which is it okay to try to experiment without asking permission from the school caretaker? Because that is the person who is in charge of playground materials. And if anything breaks, he has to be one to fix it. So they all agree that, yes, they really should have and need to involve permission from the school caretaker. But then they also thought, oh, we're doing this in our little study group, but what about school leadership? What do they think about what we're doing? So they did go to the school leader, but actually, first let me share one of the suggestions that they gave to Marina in the picture here is that she should also share the documentation with the children. So what she did is that she shared the green bracelet with the kids, and this is after the 2 weeks of experimenting with this rule. So she asked, who remembers how you use this? And Viva said, when we have the bracelets, then we can do anything and ride everywhere. Bike on the blue part, and then you and Carolina are going around with a camera because they were taking documentation. And Lucy said, you said we had to be nice to each other. And Marina said, yes, that was 1 rule. Actually, there were just 2 rules. Do you remember the other one? Christophe said, take care of our things. And Anja said, and we have to take care of the little ones. Marina said, yes, those were our 2 rules. So do you think the K2s could learn to use bracelets? K2s are the kids that are a year younger than them. And Christophe said, yes. And Devani said, I can teach them. So then they saw, yes, definitely we need to also include school leadership. So then the school leaders actually were very enthusiastic about what they did. They said, there are just 2 rules and they're so simple. And then they actually suggested what would happen if these children started the year with only 2 rules. So that they were thinking maybe rulemaking could be seen instead as a dance in which teachers and children negotiate limits in an ongoing, iterative way. But definitely the school caretaker should be part of the process. And so at the end, the teacher's reflection on this was that this was so early in the year, but I learned that the children could handle the responsibility. That impressed me because I wasn't sure, giving their maturity, giving their ability to balance their feelings. And she also said, my mindset changed as I realized that I could push for different possibilities. It was like opening of a door. All right, so I'm going to pause here for a second. And Karen had promised me that she would report back on what's happening in the chat box.
Hi, yes, you wanted people to respond to how they can lead their own learning, is that
Yes.
correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay, sure.
I can-
So we had one participant say that teachers lead their own learning when they ask instructional coaches for support and collaboration, attend PLCs, create teacher eval goals and learning plans. One participant said that trying new instructional strategies that they have seen or heard of. One said teachers lead their learning when they find an area that they realize they do not know enough about or want to get better at, and situations that happen in the classroom lead them to the realization that learning needs to take place. Another said when teachers set their own goals for growth and seek and lead their own professional development around that goal to grow in their practice. And one said K through 1 teacher leaders in their professional learning have been exploring using purposeful play and learning structures in order to help students develop executive functioning skills. They are videotaping themselves, teaching, and their students learning to share with colleagues because they are so excited with the learning and fun in their classrooms. And finally, one participant said that they have a student that if they have a student they can't figure out, quote unquote, and they read, research, collaborate with colleagues, and persevere to reach that student.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, and does anyone want to chime in that didn't get a chance to type in the chat?
Yvonne, there was a few more that that teachers lead their own learning when they believe that they have the support and trust in experimenting, right? Which is really important. Teachers reconnect with the why, and then they reconnect with the joy, which is cool. And they lead their own learning when they have humility and question practices that they've been using for a very long time.
Yes, yes. Oh, those are wonderful. Yes. All right. So clearly I'm preaching to the converted. I could probably end my presentation right now, but I'll explain a little bit more about what we did in the pedagogy of play. And I'm just so pleased to hear what you have to say, that you already see a lot in how teachers lead their own learning, explore the unknown, and find joy in the process. So the other important point that we found in our research is that supportive school cultures enable playful learning to thrive. And so in the book, we have these 5 practices in chapter 4 of the Pedagogy Playbook. And so these are practices for teachers. They are really, if you're interested, the book is available as a free PDF for download. It's translated into Chinese and Spanish. So later at the last slide, I will give you a QR code and a link to our website where you can find all of this. And this all actually recently, we also made an audio version of the book. So, share it with your teachers. Chapter 4 is about the classroom practices for them. But I want to tell you a little bit more about chapter 5, which is for you, school leaders, about playful learning school-wide practices. So the first one is to build shared understanding about playful learning. The second one is to leverage school structures to support playful learning. The third one is to provide playful professional learning opportunities. The fourth one is to foster playful community connections. And then the last one is to lead playfully. All right, so starting with the building shared understanding of playful learning in the school. So as I told you the story about the too many rules on the playground, this is an example from the school of the International School of Billund in Denmark, and this was our first research site. Now, this school, Billund, is the city where Lego Foundation's headquarters is. So this is a school where a lot of their employees' children go to, and they are definitely very much on board in terms of playful learning. Their school mission says, by placing play at the heart of education, ISB stimulates every child's natural desire to learn. Even though they say that, as you saw in the picture of practice that I just shared, teachers still feel like, well, sometimes you feel like you're getting contradicting messages. And true enough that when our research team went there, we found out that actually every teacher has a very different interpretation of what playful learning is. So for some teachers, playful learning is about games, activities. So they think about all different kinds of ways to make playful games and playful activities. Other teachers think that playful learning is a mindset. So it's really just about making the questions more interesting and engaging for children to think about, making more interesting discussions for them to engage in. So those kinds of differences are very important for teachers to hear from each other and learn from each other and also build a shared understanding. So in Denmark, what we did is that we worked with the educators and we asked them, what does playful learning feel like and look like in your classroom? And so that's how we got the wonder, choice, and delight indicators. But for example, under wonder, the teachers eventually talked about how it feels like engagement, novelty, fascination, curiosity, and surprise. And it looks like risk-taking, focusing attention, asking questions that further learning, improvising, pretending, reflecting on mistakes, inventing, imagining, exploring, creating, trying. So through these discussions in their teacher study groups really help bring the school together in understanding what does playful learning mean to us as a community. In Massachusetts, I actually also work for the Massachusetts Department of Education in the Playful Learning Institute. I'm one of the playful learning coaches, and we work with 5 different school districts on promoting playful learning. So we are in the process of developing our own playful learning indicators for Massachusetts. So far this is a draft, but we got to curiosity, empowerment, enjoyment, and connections as being our 4 playful learning indicators. And the way we use these indicators is that every time as a coach, I go in to observe in the debrief meeting, we will pull out this playful learning indicators that they developed with us all together. So they know these words. These are words from their mouths. And then we say, okay, today, what did playful learning look like in that hour that I observed? And what did playful learning feel like in that hour that I observed? So then we go through this together. Right now, we're trying to make that into a form so that everybody who wants to use it can use it. But these are the ways that we can use playful learning indicators as part of the teacher support, but also just, teacher self-evaluation, self-reflection, and also as a school leader, it's a really good tool to use for having conversations with teachers. So that was the first playful learning practice. The second one is to leverage school structures to support playful learning. And so basically what we're doing here is asking ourselves, how can our school structure help learners lead their own learning, explore the unknown, and find joy in the process? Schedule is a place where you have a lot of say and that you can do some work to make it more playful. In the book, you'll find that there's a picture of practice about a middle school at Billand, that they decided that they will have the students compose their own schedule. So I'm not going to go into that, but it's an interesting, very interesting playful learning practice. But also the Elliott School in Boston Public School, they have what they call the EPIC block, Elliott Play, Innovate, and Create. And this is from K through 8th grade. Everyone doing EPIC block would create cross-discipline topics that they're interested in. So it goes anywhere from animation to cooking. And then during the EPIC block, mixed age groups would learn together and play and innovate and create. And so environment and materials is another place where you can make the structure more playful for your teachers and your students. As you heard earlier in the story that I told, Too Many Rules on the Playground, the school leaders supported the change in the rules of the outdoor environment. And then the Hannah School at Beverly, Massachusetts, a school where I am the playful learning coach, the principal has this idea that it's not just about buying good materials and finding funding to renovate the outdoor environment, but it's also about teaching children how to be independent and responsible with the materials that they're given. So the whole school uses a responsive classroom approach. And they had added to that in talking about not just about the first 6 weeks of school of getting ready to be a community together, but also getting ready to be a playful community together. And here is also the third place where you would have some ways to make the structure more playful is the curriculum. And this slide I borrowed from a 3rd grade team in Beverly, Massachusetts. They had did a presentation to their peers about how they use playful learning and integrated it with Integrated Studios, which is a place where 3rd graders can choose what they want to do with the Wit and Wisdom curriculum that they are using. So this is the Wit and Wisdom Ocean unit. And at the end, there is actually an assessment question for the end of module assessment. And the question is, why and how do people explore the sea? So they did the typical, write an essay about that with supporting statements. So they did that. But then after that, she opened the last hour of the day for a week for students to find ways to express what they've learned in creative ways. So she had a writing studio, she had a building studio, she had a technology studio, she had a music and poetry studio, and she had an art studio. And she does this regularly. Sometimes it's where she finds ways in her curriculum, in the Wit and Wisdom curriculum, where she can find, oh, this will be a good point to make it playful. And of course, she does this with the support of the principal. And she actually, because it works so well, she gave this presentation with her peers just to kind of share a way of doing playful learning, yet still stay with the curriculum that is given from the district. So here I wanted just to share a quote that I love from two prominent playful learning researchers. They said that, in short, the debate must no longer be about learning versus play. Rather, curricula should stress learning via play. All right, so the next practice I would like to share with you is about providing playful professional learning opportunities. And here you ask yourself the questions, how can teachers in my school lead their own learning, explore the unknown, and find joy in the process? And so sometimes it's just as easy as having a playful start to meetings and professional development. So here I share with you some pictures from our Playful Learning Summer Institute last year. All we did is bring Play-Doh in. We just brought in Play-Doh and had the teachers create a scenario that introduces themselves through Play-Doh. And look at all the smiles in the room. Sometimes it's just this little thing. In my own meetings, POP meetings, we always start with what we call replay, which is everybody gets 1 minute to tell us what was one thing you did that was playful recently. So even just that, changes the mood and gets everybody thinking about being playful. But if you're interested in more long-term professional development, I highly recommend the teacher study groups. And with the teacher study groups, the Pedagogy of Play team created 2 playful learning educator research guides. The first one is called Creating Playful Indicators for Your School, and the second one is called Playful Participatory Research Guide. You can find it in the appendices of our book. And just a quick slide to show you. So the Playful Learning Indicators Guide for your school is basically helping your school come to a shared understanding of what does playful learning look and feel like in your school. And there are these 4 steps. And then the Playful Participatory Research Guide has 5 steps: wonder, plan, play, reflect, and share. And oftentimes the way teachers use them is to say, I want to, they have a goal in mind. This is more open-ended, so I want to make my math curriculum, say, more playful. So then they make a plan, they play, try it out, and then they reflect with their peers, and then they share with the greater community. So it's a 5-step process, and we have a more detail and also sort of prompts and activities and things that your teachers can do together based on those research guides. And so that becomes their own self-motivated, self-guided, that they're leading their own learning in these professional development. All right, the next practice I would like to share is to foster playful community connections. And different ways to do this. One is to create playful rituals and celebrations. And the ISB in Billund, they have Passion Day. So 3 times a year, they have a day where it's a day to spend the whole day pursuing their own interests. So a little bit like the Elliott School Epic Block, except they do it for the whole day. And here was a letter, part of the letter that was written to the parents. I just want to highlight the second paragraph that the principal told the parents that you might think of it as the ISB equivalent of Google's 20% time, a concept that gives engineers a portion of their workday to explore their own projects and interests, the results of which include Gmail and Google Translate. So they took this Passion Day and did it 3 times a year, and it continues to do this. This particular letter was written for the 2016-17 academic year, but they're still doing this. And there's a link, if you go on the Billund website, about a video about this Passion Day. But here's some photos to just show you the range of activities that happen during Passion Day. And then The community definitely includes families. Families are probably the most important part of our community. This slide, I just wanted to share with you that the ways to engage playfully with families could go anywhere from something very home-based to something very school-based. So it could be just setting a playful environment at home and facilitating play to extend learning at home, to all the way to the playful participatory research that I just showed as a teacher PD. You can engage it with families too. So you could be a family and teacher joint, study group and joint research project. So there's a very wide range of how you can engage playfully with families. And then also there is the idea of finding opportunities for school and community partnerships. And here I would like to share with you 3 examples of people that we met during the time that we were doing playful learning research. There is Tabiti Brown. He's the head of school at the Codman Academy in Boston. And he said that playful learning connects to issues of importance in the wider world. Learning for the community is connected to family and friends, to interests both in and out of school, and to the lived realities of students. So this is a quote from him that we loved and put it in the book. It is really wonderful. And it is true that at Codman Academy, everything they do, they find a way to connect it to the real world, to connect it to the community. Then there's Steve Mapia. He is the principal in a school in Johannesburg, South Africa. And he connected with, they didn't have the resources for arts and sports. So he connected with the local piano teachers to come teach the children. And he connected with a rugby team to come give kids rugby lessons. Then there's Judith Guevara Urabi. She's a principal in Bogota, Colombia. And what she did was really remarkable. She works in a high crime area, but they started a playful after-school program in the public park near their school. And their presence ended up changing the neighborhood, that people then started to say, oh, well, kids play there, we need to clean this up. Or they would say, oh, not here. Don't do that kind of stuff over here, because this is a place where kids play. Then the last practice is to lead playfully. And this includes getting feedback all the time from teachers, students, families, to understand how participants really experience playful learning, all the participants in your learning community. What does playful learning feel like to them? Then also to make playful learning visible through displays, newsletters. Here's the part of the ISB website that has playful learning play and learn right at the top of their webpage. And then to model playfulness, to take risk and experiment yourself as well, but also model that. One of the things that I really enjoy working in the Beverly school, the Hannah School in Beverly, is that their principal, when she does join in our debrief for playful learning, when she hears teachers taking risks, she gets so excited, so visibly excited. And it makes the teachers feel like, oh, okay, taking risks was a good thing. I thought I was sharing a flop, but the principal saw me taking risk in trying something new. And then, so I would like to leave you with this question in terms of leading playfully. How can you, as a school leader, lead your own learning, explore the unknown, and find joy in the process? And I think, the playful learning culture starts with you. So how can you find joy in this whole process? All right, and as promised, I said my last slide, I will give you a QR code and our website. And so that if you take it now, you can get to our website. It has a lot of resources, including our book, and also including a lot of PDFs that we have uploaded. If you don't, you're not near a computer, just when you have time, Google Pedagogy or Play, it pops right up, or the top hit on Google. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Yvonne. That was wonderful. Your research and your presentation is so powerful and emphasizes what we all believe is right for children. So we really appreciate your time here. So participants, the second half of our webinar is we have some panelists. We have from a variety of communities. Each is administrator and has been involved with play-based learning for many years. They'll be sharing their journey about how they've established a climate and a culture grounded in playful learning. Throughout their sharing, I will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in there. We will provide time at the end to look at some of the questions and comments. So we have Mrs. Emily Caviggia, is the principal of Killingly Central School in Killingly, Connecticut. The school is comprised of kindergarten and grade 1 classrooms. They've been engaged in meaningful opportunities for play during the last several years. Emily takes pride in endorsing play as she has witnessed firsthand the magical impact it has had on students, facilitating their own learning and teachers coaching alongside. We have Colleen Fitzpatrick. She spent most of her career as a kindergarten teacher. She was great enthusiasm and interested in high quality learning opportunities that include student creativity, exploration, and problem solving through playful scenarios, games, and activities. When introduced to purposeful play, she was committed to becoming knowledgeable about the practice and helping teachers understand the potential benefits it has on students, both socially and academically. With district support, Colleen was able to maintain continuity in training, support the integration of practice into the existing curriculum, and foster play as an instructional strategy. We have Kathy Coon, is the proud principal of Miller-Driscoll Elementary School in Wilton, Connecticut. Kathy believes she has the best job in the world because she works with people who really understand what is important when educating our youngest learners. According to Kathy, our teachers and our kids and teachers are always ready to learn and play. So we will turn it over to Emily to share her journey.
Good morning, everybody. So my school's play journey began over 6 years ago out of necessity. Necessity for regulation, necessity for executive function development, necessity for students to learn how to socially navigate trials and tribulations collaboratively, and for the necessity of experiencing fun and joy within their school day. The words fun and happiness should be synonymous with an elementary building comprised of approximately 370 pre-K, K, and 1 students. But sadly, little evidence of these attributes could be found at KCS. During the 2014-2015 school year, Killingly's 2 elementary schools began the reconfiguration process, transitioning the separate K4 buildings into a pre-K1 school and a 2-4 school. The reconfiguration happened quickly so that by the fall of 2015, students were shifted to their grade-specific building. Over half the staff in each school had packed up their classroom into boxes and were moved across town, leaving behind dear colleagues and a school culture that wouldn't be reflected in their new environment. Staff were highly affected by the move and were experiencing a sense of loss, frustration, lack of belonging, and confusion with systems and processes. The list of negative feelings could go on, but regardless of those personal experiences, these were professionals who were giving 100% of themselves to their students. In return, though, students were experiencing very similar feelings, but for different reasons, and were having a hard time adjusting to the new school year and environment. Many of the classrooms had several students who were unable to remain regulated throughout their day, often resorting to room destruction, physical aggression, and elopement. Crisis calls were constantly being made, and morale in the building was at its lowest. In addition to the negative impact that the building shift had on staff and students, it is also important to highlight the socioeconomic influence that many of our Killingly students experience. As an alliance district where over 75% of students qualify for free or reduced lunches, students' adverse childhood experience scores are often high, ranging from 2 ACEs to sometimes 8 or 10. Our students not only deserved stability, strength, and love from their teachers, they needed it to thrive. To add to the trauma that was happening within KCS, there was a surge of retirements, many of whom were the pillars of the school system and were admired leaders and colleagues. With the announcement of those retirements, the staff were then informed that the current principal was also retiring. I reassure you, the doom and gloom and depressing part of my story is ending, and now begins the story of hope and belief the importance of perseverance and a unified vision, as well as professional understanding and growth, reflection, and honest dialogue. During the year I was hired, I experienced firsthand a school filled with so much potential. Who doesn't love this age group? The students' eagerness to learn, their inquisitiveness, but students' needs were not being met. What I had felt for the first time in my career was a cloud of despair hanging over the school and a lack of excitement and passion within the classrooms. Reform was needed, and whether the staff were ready for it or not, they began a journey of change with me. One of the first steps of action that I embraced was conducting entry interviews with each staff and faculty member, and one common theme quickly emerged. I had heard more often than not the following sentiments. These kids are not permitted to have fun, and we are not teaching our students in a developmentally appropriate manner. The staff were directly telling me what needed to be changed, and if I were to earn any credibility and success in leading our school and meeting its amazing potential, my actions needed to show that their voices were being heard. I'm a true believer in the saying, everything happens for a reason. During that first year as principal, I had the opportunity of participating in a year-long pre-K 3 leadership program through UConn's NEAG School of Education. As part of our experience, our leadership cohort learned about the principles of play and its impact on development and learning. We also were able to visit and experience play in action in various schools in the Hartford area. I was inspired by the students' creativity, their language development and use of vocabulary, their knowledge and confidence in social successes. They were engaged collaboratively, problem solving through trial and error. Students were being challenged, state standards were visibly being addressed, and guess what? Students were having fun. One of the members of the NEAG Leadership Committee, Elizabeth Aschenbrenner, who joins us today, we finally know her as EA, had connected with me in regards to implementing play in coordination with a grant through LEGO. By the 17-18 school year, our play journey began. Following the Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, focusing our work on the why, staff learned of the benefit of play and why play was needed within our classrooms. Through professional development opportunities, staff's understanding of purposeful play was strengthened, as well as their knowledge of play's impact on their students' social, emotional, and educational development. Not only were staff engaged in learning about the science behind these play opportunities, they were reminded of how they grew up as children. Riding bikes on chalk paths that represented pretend towns, building forts and structures out of cardboard, playing with their dolls. All of these scenarios in their childhood played a role shaping their personal strength and qualities as adults. Opportunities for staff were also provided for them to play and construct, experiencing the benefits that our students would soon be having. For the first time, laughter was being heard at these meetings. While the whole staff were engaging in professional development opportunities, 6 classroom teachers volunteered to become play ambassadors. These play ambassadors received coaching and explicit feedback throughout their implementation of play scenarios. It was important to give the group time to meet and reflect on their journey. We found that being able to talk through and problem solve any barriers together, which often resulted from scheduling concerns to storage of props and creations, was invaluable. The play ambassador's journey was also shared with staff during faculty meetings. By the following school year, all 20 classrooms had begun implementing purposeful play. The play ambassadors assumed leadership roles where they mentored staff and facilitated professional development and reflection. As the building's leader, I also created a master schedule where play kicked off each day. The intent was to improve our attendance and encourage students to want to come to school. What better way to start our day than an activity that is regulating, predictable, and of high interest? Since our initiation of play, we have trialed this block at different times of day. Most recently, though, due to teacher experience and observable student impact, we made the decision to move play back to the start of the day, and I highly recommend that. I have also made a clear stance regarding purposeful play being a non-interrupted time of the day. meaning students are not to be taken for supports or therapies during this time. We have been creative in using the time to complete some service such as social work and OT, as play creates a natural setting to develop these particular areas within the classroom setting. Also, our reading and math tutors and interventionists will use this time of day to support students in developing oral language, composing written play plans, navigating prop construction, and being guests for scenarios. With the establishment of school-wide expectations, systems, and structures, along with the daily opportunity for play, the positive impact was immediately recognized after 1 year of implementation. There were a significant reduction of behavior referrals or crisis calls made to the office. During my first year, 552 crisis calls were made to the office, but by the following year, it dropped down to 200. Minor reports of behavior, such as work refusal or off-task behavior, dropped from 393 down to 172 reported incidents. The most telling and powerful piece of this data, which continues to remain true to present day, is that crisis calls have never occurred during purposeful play. The sense of pride that students take in their work, the feeling of ownership, their focused, active engagement, the predictability during this time of day all contribute to the regulation experienced. Play has significantly promoted student-centered learning, giving students an opportunity to have choice while taking responsibility for their learning. Play has provided students with the time to cultivate self-regulation skills and strategies while using and developing social competencies. Play has afforded students with a chance to nurture their creativity, imagination, and innovation. Through play, we have advanced our students' mindsets, instilling a belief that we can be whatever we want to be in life. We have truly inspired future carpenters, vets, scientists, pilots, chefs, educators, marine biologists, the list goes on. All students have also grown as risk takers, as play supports even our shyest learners to have confidence. Teachers have also grown as risk takers, fostering their students' desire to learn about various topics such as medieval kingdoms to a pet store that slowly became part of a growing town of 6 businesses. One of my favorite reflections from a teacher regarding play is the following. Play is not only my students' favorite time of the day, but it's mine as well. I am so exhausted by the end of our time playing, but I can't wait to see where their imagination will take us tomorrow, and that is invigorating. Teachers have learned that they are now the passengers sitting alongside students navigating their own learning path. As students have taken on increased responsibilities, we have seen a shift in our professional mindset. Having reflected on my play journey, the most important takeaways that I want to share with anyone interested in beginning this adventure is to be completely transparent with not only your staff, but your district and community as well. Advocate for play, share its benefits, be the voice that changes public perception of play. I was extremely lucky to have a superintendent who believed in play and who supported my school's mission. And because of the mantra that we all have followed, all of our successive superintendents have continued to be supportive. At every opportunity I get, I share videos and insight of classroom projects to the Board of Ed, community members, highlighting the growth that students have made due to play. Play is featured during our kindergarten orientation, often receiving the most enthusiasm from our new families. All marketing and advertising involving KCS portrays our children's work around play. Play is hard work, but the rewards are exponential. And I firmly believe that play transformed KCS into the school that it was meant to be. Best of luck on your journey.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. We'll turn to Kathy, and if you could share your journey for us.
Sure, thanks. All right, so thanks again for the opportunity to present about our journey with play here at Miller-Driscoll. It's my favorite subject to talk about. And I'm going to try to take what we've done in the last 7 years and recap it in 5 minutes, which is what I was told I was given. So I'm gonna give it a go. So yes, like Karen said, I have the best job because we are the only pre-K to 2 school in Wilton. We have about 875 children. So we're a big place, but we have pre-K to 2. I have an amazing administrative team who has supported me on this journey with play. In particular, Bernadette Hess, one of my assistant principals, I think she's on this webinar actually, who reminds me every day how important it is to play. I will say that it was easy here because getting preschool to grade 2 teachers to buy into incorporating play in their classrooms was not a challenge at all. My teachers and staff embrace the concept of play, and they know how important it is to the development of our youngest learners. So I'm lucky because not only do they believe in the power of play, but they're also willing to study it. So I'm going to give a little bit of a different spin on our journey and talk a lot about the professional learning that we've done over the past 7 years. Throughout this journey, we would learn about something, and then we would come back and reflect and revise what we were doing based on what we would learn and do some risk taking along the way. So I'm going to give you a few examples of what we've been doing. We started with a school-wide study of the book Purposeful Play. This was great because it applied to every single person in the school, no matter what their role. It highlights the research around play in 2 different ways. So the work in play, which is how to use play to support social and emotional growth, and the play in work, which is how to make the whole day playful. So teachers, again, incorporated different strategies from purposeful play into their subject areas, their classrooms, special education, speech and language sessions, all of it. Since then, we've studied several other books, including Kids First from Day One, Being the Change, Saving Play, to name a few. Throughout our journey, we also partnered with many experts. So our first inspiration was Dr. Peter Gray. We watched a TED Talk of his titled The Decline of Play, and he taught us all about the reasons for the decline in play and the effect that it's had on children. We also learned from Lenore Skenazy, who is the head of the Let Grow project. And we learned different ways to foster independence with our children. And so we partnered with parents to have our kids participate in the Let Grow project, where little kids, even as young as preschool, would go home and talk to their parents about something they wanted to do totally on their own. And parents took the leap of faith and let kids do things like mow the lawn, make dinner, go to the market to buy things, all kinds of things that fostered kids' independence. So it was quite incredible. Parents sent in pictures, and we, celebrate those things throughout the year. We even started our own free play club where students come in before school and they have an opportunity to play in multi-age groups with all kinds of different materials, or not, with no materials. And the teachers who facilitate that group know just when to, support kids and just when to kind of hang back and observe. And just FYI, every single year we have a waiting list for that club. Another play expert that we worked with was Morgan Lecter Saxby, who came in and did professional development with us on play cycles. And so when we learned about play cycles and we learned how long it takes students and even adults, because we did it through our own play, to go through a play cycle, we then looked at our recess structure at the time and decided, you know what, we aren't giving kids long enough. So we changed our recess structure to 30 minutes with the teachers out there supporting the kids, so that kids, again, would have an opportunity to go through all parts of that play cycle. We learned also from Jennifer Carvajal, who is from Teaching Beyond the Square, who came in and did some PD with us on loose parts. So she taught us how to take, just all kinds of recycled, materials and support open-ended play experiences in the classroom using loose parts with very little direction from the teachers. So that was one thing where we have to kind of, I think like Yvonne talked about, there's so much control, there's so much oversight in a school setting. And so getting teachers to just let kids, again, be creative with loose parts was amazing. Jillian Mocha, who is from our RESC at CES, came in and again talked to us about play under the lens of executive functioning and how we foster executive functioning through play. And last year we partnered with, we collaborated with Oswegatchie School in Waterford, Connecticut, and Joe Macrino, who is a champion of play, taught us about play workshop. So last year in kindergarten, we scheduled in a 45-minute play workshop. And most of you are on this webinar are probably thinking, so where do you just find 45 minutes in the day? We were super creative with our scheduling and looked at incorporating social studies standards and SEL standards into that play workshop, and found a different way to schedule in our science. So that's where we found the time. But teachers learned how to start play workshop with a whole group plan at the beginning of kindergarten. That was a plan they made together. Eventually, it became an individually written play plan. Students would then have time to play based on their plan. And again, teachers were very deliberate about the support that they gave to kids, whether things were more open-ended, whether they needed to support engagement. But at the end of the workshop, they would come back and do a reflection on whether they accomplished their plans. They would talk about anything unexpected that might have happened. And then children would help to plan the next play workshop based on that information. This year, after working with EA and Karen Gray, our teachers planned a unit of play using the learning scenario format. They found great success with this model for planning because they took the time to build the background knowledge for the scenario. They gave kids time to make the props for the play and then eventually started to play. And students took on different roles in their play, with, again, had them more engaged for longer periods of time. In addition, like Colleen said, we start the day with play. So preschool through grade 2. The kids all come in and play. That's the first thing they do during the day. And then recently, thanks to all this info on pedagogy of play, it was actually last Wednesday, we reviewed chapter 4 of pedagogy of play, and teachers divided into some small study groups and looked at some classroom practices, strategies, and some of the resources in the pedagogy of play toolkit, and have come up with a whole action plan for some additional things they can implement in their classroom. Talking about, just like Colleen did, we don't have behavior issues when the kids are playing. So like she said, we don't have any office referrals or people calling to come in, have support given to kids during play. The other thing that is incredible at our school, people wondered, well, if we take 45 minutes out of the kindergarten day to play, how will that impact academics? But since doing that, we have never had higher scores on our benchmark assessments, which makes it great when you go in front of the Board of Education. That's incredible. Another great thing that has happened here in Wilton is we have a whole community free play task force. So the Wilton Youth Council developed a free play task force with members of their organization, community business leaders, parents, school administrators, and teachers. And we've done things throughout Wilton just to make the whole community more playful. And they were also a lot of the people who went up to Hartford to lobby for the new legislation we have. So thanks to them for that. There's so much more that I would love to share, and happy to share any resources that I have, but I want to make sure we give time for our other panelists. But it's been an amazing journey. I love to start big, so we started with purposeful play for the whole school, but you decide what's best for your journey. But all I would say is just start somewhere. So thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing. Appreciate it. And Colleen from Middletown, you're up.
Hi, thank you, Karen. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, as our journey with play in Middletown started off on a smaller scale. I had been a kindergarten teacher, as Karen had mentioned earlier, for a very long time, a time in which play was part of our curriculum, and I got to experience little by little it being taken away from the students. As that happened, I also started to decide that I wanted to leave that space and become more invested in making sure that developmentally appropriate curriculum and joy of learning continued to be a mainstay in our educational system. So I had taken the role of an instructional specialist within the same building in which I taught. and I was asked if I thought that I might be interested in trying to bring play into it started out in preschool, and then we evolved into our kindergarten. We were having some struggles with our preschool setting because we were a half-day preschool at the time, and therefore with only 2.5 hours, it was really hard to get scenarios started. So again, I was asked, did I think this would be appropriate in the kindergarten setting? And I just jumped with joy and said, I will do whatever I need to do to create this space within these classrooms in our building. So I thought that my excitement for play in the kindergarten classroom would be embraced greatly by those that were now teaching. However, I was, after our first meeting, I was perplexed and confused by the amount of resistance that I was presented with, only to find out that because our kindergarten classrooms had become so curriculum-based, those teachers feared that if they were not meeting the expectations of our curriculum and moving the students through that scope and sequence in the correct order and time, that perhaps they would not be considered as doing what they were supposed to in that classroom. So this started about 10 years ago. And because my administrator at the time was very committed to my enthusiasm and the work that I wanted to incorporate, she truly stood behind me and allowed me to continue the work. So at that time, I was working with EA, and I made sure that we made coaching persistent and consistent. And I was not going to bow out until I knew that I had done everything I could to make sure that my teachers had a full understanding of the practice and the benefits that it had to offer children. So with that being said, I realized that I was going to need to take a very slow process. So I'm quite jealous, Kathryn, that you were able to do a whole school and do it so quickly. For me, it was step by step, to the point where I actually needed to realize that I needed to let my teachers actually guide the direction in which EA and I were going to be able to take them. So we scaffolded, supported, and as I said, continued to provide coaching opportunities. Little by little, we started to introduce just the strategies that support students in developing better self-regulation and executive function skills. And we just asked teachers if they would start to implement those in the classroom. Well, it was so refreshing that once they did, to our amazement, some of the children that we were struggling with the most actually showed the greatest gains when teachers implemented those practices, such as who chooses first, even just the graphic practice for students, having them know when to start and stop, through the joy of writing on a whiteboard to music, became a place where teachers were actually seeing the benefits of all that EA was sharing in that professional development. And with that, the teachers then became more invested in learning more about, ooh, what can we do next and how can we grow this practice in our classrooms? So they began to ask me, when was EA coming? Could she actually come more often than she was scheduled? So we were on the phone or emailing quite often, and they wanted additional coaching. They also wanted to take and they were very afraid of, what does purposeful play look like? I don't really understand what you're saying and how to create a space in which these practices that you say bring all these benefits to children look and feel like. So with that, EA and I work collaboratively to try to develop opportunities for them to visit other schools that had already engaged in the practice. Once they had an idea of what it looked like, they came back and they were ready to hit the ground running. They knew from that moment that they were capable of doing this and that it fit into their classrooms. So it was an experience that I knew I needed to let the development of the practice and the teacher's journey, as I said, be one in which they directed me. They directed the coaching opportunities that I had, and that we also let it evolve within our building. As teachers became more comfortable with taking the risk, they began to develop opportunities now that they were asking us to actually come in and take a look at it. So we started having walkthroughs, administrative walkthroughs. They were very proud to have us. Students were excited to have us in their room. And we always followed up with a PLC or a debrief session that allowed me to highlight, again, as I said, my journey was that teachers were so afraid that they weren't going to be able to fit the curriculum in. So even though EA, I'm sorry, but EA really wanted this to be about play, executive functioning, and the opportunity for students to build their executive functioning skills. I needed to really highlight those areas where curriculum was being touched upon throughout the entire time that I was in that classroom. Again, as teachers realized that there were embedded standards and learning happening in their classrooms throughout this joyful time, they flourished. They just continued to build and build and build upon what they were providing to their students, to the point that it became one scenario one year, two scenarios the next year. And now, not only in my building, but throughout the entire district of Middletown, we have kindergarten teachers implementing 3 scenarios a year. Each scenario looks different in each school. Again, we have tried to really maintain that freedom for teachers to be creative, for teachers to feel comfortable in the space, and for teachers to be utilizing their space so that they are actually meeting the needs of the students in front of them and not tied to a specific curriculum that we've decided to create and infuse the word play into it. So within every building, each scenario looks different, and the capacity of each teacher at this time also looks different. As an instructional specialist, as I said, I found that just highlighting the learning opportunities, not only for the teachers, but for any administrator that walked into that building, including our superintendent, who at the time had a theme of unlocking the potential in all children, was something that I specifically, purposefully, and intentionally brought to attention no matter who came into our building. One of the most overwhelmingly exciting moments, or I should say moments, plural, because I went into those classrooms multiple occasions, was that every time we walked into a classroom, every child, when we talked about all children were participating. And at no point in time were we able to identify the who was who had a label, who didn't have a label. And the development of play between each child in that classroom and the exchange of oral language, skills such as, I'll just use an example I shared with Karen, our first teacher who actually demonstrated the most comfort, decided to do a veterinarian clinic in her classroom. We walked into that room, and that teacher actually, it was a kindergarten class that was filled with children who were struggling socially, emotionally, behaviorally. But upon that entrance into that classroom, all we saw were children that were engaged in role playing to a level that they took so seriously about who they were and what they were doing in those spaces that as I walked around the room, we had the vet the children were drawing x-rays of the animals that they would lay on the table and pretend they were x-raying. Then we had the groomer who was in this full-fledged conversation with the customer about what did they want that that dog to have that day, including having the teeth brushed. And there were different spaces in the classroom that these children were taking the animal to, and they were telling me exactly what needed to be done, when, and why. And then at one point, the students just decided that this dog needed an outfit when he was done being groomed, but they hadn't already implemented that part of the veterinarian clinic into their play scenario. So all of a sudden the student was just like, we have to make clothes. We have to make clothes for these animals. And the teacher literally said, well, what do you need? That was her way of integrating with the students. And they said, well, we need paper so that we can create sweaters. And the teacher said, well, you know where to find it. And these students just went over to the teacher's storage closet. They took out what they needed from that space and went right back into their the veterinarian clinic space of the classroom and began to create these outfits for all the animals that were coming to their space. And I just sat there and thought, oh my goodness, these students just totally took control of decision-making, creativity. They worked collaboratively to decide what materials they were going to use in order to accomplish what it was that they wanted. And then they took control of their own classroom environment, and they were very appropriate. The same children that you said may have been in my office the day before were in there controlling their classroom environment, and they were creating clothes. By the end of the day, that dog had a sweater. So it was just such an amazing experience. And once that one teacher highlighted what could happen and what kids could do in that space, we had 3 kindergarten teachers at the time. The resistance level of the other 2 was lowered, and they began to want to see how they could create those same opportunities in their classroom. So again, then I became the principal of the building, and lo and behold, COVID interfered with all that I had started during my instructional specialist term. But I just stayed true again to the persistence and the commitment of, once we're able to engage and collaborate and get our kids in groups talking and exchanging ideas, we will continue this. And that was when the teachers came to me and said, we think we're ready. We want to do 3 scenarios this year, and we want to start this one next week. And they explained what it would be. The practice has grown now to a place where, as I said, not only is it being utilized throughout the entire district, but in my building, we have teacher buy-in. As I said, the teachers are completely invested. They also have created opportunities for the family buy-in. When they saw how excited the children were about their learning and how parents were sending messages about the excitement that children were sharing at the dinner table at night, they decided to create opportunities where parents are now part of the field trips. They host parent nights, so they introduce each scenario and the parents actually engage in a small snippet of what will be included in that scenario. And then they invite volunteers to help and support in the classroom during those scenarios. And they also invite parents. One of their scenarios was community helpers. So they invited parents to come in and share what they do for the community and how their jobs impact students, adults, and the people around us. And then we also have whole school buy-in now, which is exciting because I would really like to see this practice evolve into our 1st grade and possibly 2nd grade classrooms. But they have opened their classrooms so that teachers can bring their children in to see what the kindergartners are doing. And they also engage in with the kindergarten students in those scenarios. One of the latest scenarios is a pizza. One has a pizza palace, one has a pizza shop. They're very specific on what their students provide in terms of services in those 2 places. But they have the whole staff ordering pizzas throughout the day. And then during that play scenario, the students put on their aprons, they ride bicycles throughout the building and deliver makeshift pizzas to the staff with the toppings that they have requested. So there's an exchange of either a credit card, cash, or the teacher can say, I paid on phone. So they just need to take their pizza. But just it's been such a dream to watch it evolve. But the biggest part for me, having been the administrator or the instructional specialist, was just that I got to watch learning become joyful, interactive, collaborative. And I got to see that students' fears were alleviated. They no longer were afraid of not knowing how to do something or being wrong. I saw the teachers, yes, they had a lot on their shoulders in terms of planning, but when it came time to facilitate, they were able to facilitate the children's learning. They were free to circulate and provide corrective feedback in an immediate way, but also in an exchange of offering creative and exploratory trial and errors for their students. And again, the smiles on the students' faces and the excitement to come to school each day was well worth the step-by-step resistance, persistence, and consistency in maintaining what I thought was in the best interest of our school, students, and families.
Thank you, Colleen. Emily, Kathy, Colleen, thank you so much for sharing your journey. They're all so different, but yet you all got to the same results, which is pretty awesome. Appreciate that. Looking at the time, there were a few questions in the chat, but I wanted to kind of carry on what Yvonne was saying in her leverages to achieve a playful environment, and just thinking a little bit from a leadership to a board of education. Have any of your boards addressed any policies around play? We all know that Connecticut adopted a playful learning law, but have your board of educations talked anything about adopting a policy within their districts? I see Colleen shaking her head a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we just moved a policy on for board approval.
Yeah, great. So another level of stakeholders that are supportive and involved. Appreciate that. Another question I kind of wanted that I often get is storage and classroom environment. Would any of you like to speak a little bit about, I hear, well, where am I supposed to store all of these things? What does it look like? I don't know if any of you guys can talk about specifically maybe a smaller classroom and what does it look like? And how do teachers set up their environment to support playful learning?
Well, for us, having the kids make so many of the props has been amazing, because then you can, at the end of the scenario, have the kids take them home, which they think is so cool. The parents are probably cursing us because then they have to figure out what to do with it. But it's been great just having them, make things and then take them home. We also have here in my school a core area. So when things are being set up, there's, space within the core area that they can use. So it's not all, just in their classrooms, but we have the kids make it and then we have the kids take it.
Great, thank you. Another wondering is thinking about a shared understanding, which Yvonne also spoke about. Have missions or visions for your schools or your districts been revised, or has anything been edited based on the belief of playful learning is the right thing for kids?
I read that obviously in my learning, and that is my next step. I would really love to capture that. It's just part of our climate, it's part of our culture, but really to capture that in our mission is our next step. So currently KCS does not have play embedded in our mission, but it's certainly how we function here. So.
So just in the last few minutes, do Colleen, Emily, or Kathy, do you have any last minute pointers as to where people can enter into this work, right? And so you've been on this journey for quite a long time, but where would you say, if you're going to enter anywhere, where would that space be?
I really, for me, I recommend, as I said, I had the opportunity of visiting a play-based classroom, multiple classrooms in New Britain, that's where I got bit by the bug. And I recommend that if anybody is considering to reach out to school districts or systems that are already using play-based learning in their classrooms, it is amazing to see. And it develops that belief in the practice a lot quicker than if you started off where we tried to just use that professional development and share strategies that could be incorporated into teaching practices or a classroom. So again, my teachers have just grown immensely because of the outpouring of interest in the work that they're doing. So not only are we growing, but you can also grow your own space, I think, a lot quicker by making field trips for your teachers available.
And a little plug for CAS, myself and EA are organizing site visits around the state. Tiffany has the connection to how to sign those up for that, so I'm sure she'll plug that in just a second. Just connecting with Colleen. Yvonne, did you have any last minute ahas or connections that you want to make based on the 3 journeys and stories that we just heard?
I just want to say I'm so impressed and so inspired. I am definitely going to share the webinar with my Pedagogy or Play team. They would love to hear from you. And also, I'm definitely sharing in Massachusetts. You know, I work with the Department of Education, so I'll send it over to the folks there. And we have a lot to learn from you. And this is just amazing and inspiring. Thank you so much.
So thank you for everybody. And I'll turn it over to Tiffany.
Thank you to Yvonne, Karen, and all 3 of our panelists. There was great information shared today. As a reminder, today's webinar is being recorded and it will be emailed with the slides by tomorrow to everyone who registered. The link to the slides is also being added to the chat right now by Karen Pachter. And finally, if you have not yet registered and attended workshops for play-based learning, meeting standards through purposeful play while supporting executive function skills at CAS in Cheshire, which is facilitated by Karen Gray. We have one final one coming up on April 23rd from 9 to 11:30. This will be the 6th time, I think, 6th or 7th time we've held this workshop, and we've had almost 300 educators across the state attend these workshops. We are building capacity pretty quickly. So the site visits that Karen mentioned are open to educators who have attended the workshop or have a solid foundation of play-based learning. So if you have not attended the workshop, but you are engaged in the work, you can email me. I will add my email into the chat along with the link for the workshop registration. And want to thank everyone who came out today. It was a wonderful workshop, and we look forward at CAS to working with you and supporting you in this journey. Have a great day.